Hello and welcome to Fly Nubian Money. I am Athena Gardner, and we are here today to discuss the lovely Cory Hardrict, Tia Mowry's ex-husband, and how he expressed his feelings about post-divorce, his emotional struggles, and dealing with the divorce. But today we are lining up with your co-queens today. We have Laura Lala Key, international real estate agent. We have Dr. Alicia, therapist and college professor. And we have Constant Carter, our wealth activist. So, ladies, I'm going to go right in. What do you guys think about the emotional struggles of men and divorce? I will start with you, Dr. Alicia.
Unmute myself. Okay. So, hey, everybody. I think that just like anybody who's ending a long-term relationship, it's very emotional, right? And for men in particular, when they come across these feelings of emotions that is very complex in them, they don't normally vocalize it. They keep it inside. Women are socialized. Let's just call it how they're socialized. Women are more socialized to step into that experience where they're able to talk to a lot of their friends, their family, people who are close to them, even going to see a therapist or a helping professional to help them sort through these feelings. And men who have these feelings tend to bottle it up because, let's face it, that's how they've been socialized in our society, to not be able to express how they feel emotionally. So I just think that men go through what everybody else goes through. It's just the barriers in creating a safe space for them to share how they're feeling. So that's the difference between men and women who go through a painful experience like divorce.
I am so glad we have a resident therapist on today's show to really enlighten us on the male experience with their emotions and with divorce. But before we go further in the intro, we are going to actually show the video of Cory actually discussing his feelings and discussing his emotional struggles through his divorce.
It's tough when it feels like you're going through something alone and no one understands, and no one's there for you, and it's just like, when you're a man, especially a black man, they're like, oh, he's tough, he's strong, but it was a year and a half crying myself to sleep every night. Nobody see that. Yeah. Nobody see that. Yeah. You live 5 minutes away from your babies, you know what I'm saying? Because people who know Cory Hardrict know that his kids and his family was everything to him. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm stronger than I thought I was. Yes. I'm really stronger. And that by the grace of God, it's like, I'm here and I'm still going.
Wow, such a powerful video. And I'm actually going to pivot to Constance, because Constance, I know you talked about you were married forever for a long time and you went through a divorce. What comes to your mind when you hear Cory talking?
Wow. Because it does make me try to see from the perspective of and the lens of, the male. It does make me try to get into their shoes. Which is, for me, it was a little bit different than what Dr. Alicia said, because I think for us, the roles were more reverse. And I remember we went to marriage counseling years ago, and it was Dr. Ron Elmore. He has a couple of books out. One was called How to Love a Black Woman, How to Love a Black Man. He had me read the book How to Love a Black Woman and him to read the book How to Love a Black Man, because our roles really were reversed. And so I think in our situation, my situation personally, I think he was more vocal. He was more the one who was sharing with all the friends and getting the advice and all of that stuff. And so it was definitely interesting, because the one thing I know is that the person that you marry is not the same person that you divorce. That's what I've learned inside this whole process of being divorced. But I do know a lot of things, because I went through a lot. I mean, it was very extremely, extremely tumultuous. A lot of things. I felt like I was in the twilight zone. But I know a lot of it came from hurt from his part. Hurt was like make her suffer, torture her, plus having third parties advising him on what to do as well. Like, let's get her, let's go for the jugular. She got this, she got that. Oh, we gonna get this money. So it was a lot of that too. It was a lot of outside influences because I'm like, this ain't the person that I knew for 30 years. I don't even know who this person is. But it was just my experiences was different because I think he wasn't coming from a normal male perspective, but again, it also makes me empathetic because I know a lot of things were done out of hurt. I just wished that he was like Cory and he loved his children more than he hated me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Constance. All right. So Lala, I know that you are married to this day. Okay. You've been what people aspire for. You married your sweetheart, I think high school sweetheart, correct? High school sweetheart. So obviously you've never been divorced, but you probably have had a lot of friends and people go through divorce as your marriage has been able to sustain itself. What do you think about when Cory says that as a Black man, he has to appear strong? Do you feel like that is true? Like they can't express their emotions?
I do, because a lot of the time we put a lot of pressure on our Black man to be masculine, buck up. You're not allowed to feel anything. The fact that he shared that he cried himself to sleep for a year and a half is something that needs to be discussed. It's like people feel like men don't have any hearts at all. And I truly don't believe that. They do. I actually have many friends. I've had it in my family where the divorces were very hard on them and they took a long time to recover. I know for a fact, and I know she wouldn't mind if I said this because he's no longer here, but my sister's first husband, in my family, if you got divorced, you still was a part of the family unless you did something real stupid, like put your hands on somebody, then you wasn't a part of the family. But if you got divorced, you were still a part of our family. You would still come to our reunions and things of that nature. And I know that he loved her still very much, very much. He even expressed that to us. They just couldn't get along together. That's all. But he showed the human side. We got to stop always trying to pit each other against each other. Like the woman always does this, the man always does this. How about we just get back to being human? Because regardless, we feel all of the emotions because we are human.
Right. Thank you so much for that. So if you are just joining us, we are Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also subscribe, hit the like button, and text the word Queens, that's QUEENS, to 87948, where you will always get updates from us and occasional freebies as well. Also, if you want to listen to us on the go, we are now on Spotify, so you can listen to us on Spotify as well. And feel free to join us in the comment section and in the chat. We like to engage with our audience. Now, the next question I wanted to pose to you ladies was, do you think it's important to acknowledge the emotional struggles of Black men, and how do you do that in your life? I want to start with Constance first, because Constance, I know you have sons, I know you have, so I'm always curious to see, especially from like a mother, like how they approach that.
It's really an honor and a privilege to be a parent. And then a mother of Black sons is just dope and amazing. And these boys I have, and my daughter, of course, but they're all like just really amazing. And I'm super proud of them. I actually attribute them and the way they behave. I attribute that to their father. I really do. Cause I think he did a good job in terms of like making sure they were respectful and disciplined and things like that. But what I do see, and it was funny because we were talking before this, and Dr. Alicia was saying how younger men are seeking more therapy than the older men, and I think with the exposure that we have on social media, I find that to be true. In fact, if it's around here, all my boys are very self-aware. They have shadow journals. My son the other day, my middle son, he's in California right now. Now, when I got divorced, I moved to the East Coast. I snatched them away from everything that they knew. He had a hard time adjusting. My middle son had a really hard time adjusting. And he had to take some mental health days and things like that. But um, freshman year, it was COVID. Sophomore year, divorce. Junior year, I moved to the East Coast. So he had a really, really tough all 4 years high school was just really tough every year. And when he's back in California now with my parents, and says to me last week, he goes, or week before last, Mom, I really need to, I really feel like I need to go to therapy. And I'm like, okay, well. So I just said, I'll look for a therapist for you. That's cool. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, he's home. He's probably seeing all his friends. He's probably like feeling sad and like he missed them and like he missed out on all these things. And then the next week, which was last week, he said, I wanted to tell you the reason why I wanted to go to therapy is because I'm here with my friends, and I'm seeing people that have gone through adversity and they've been able to overcome it. And I allowed my adversity to get the best of me. And I feel like I let you down, Mom. And I feel really, really bad about that. And I was like, son, like, you got to give yourself grace, because I'm certainly giving you grace, because freshman year, COVID, sophomore year, divorce, junior year, we move. And, he's getting ready to go away to an HBCU. And I'm like, you just make sure going forward, you put your best foot forward. You do the best that you can. But all of my youngest son, I'm still trying to crack that nut. He's not very expressive, but my two older sons are very expressive, and they're very in tune with their feelings, their thoughts. But I definitely attribute that to like social media, because they talk about it a lot in social media. I'm like, they know, they're very self-aware.
I'm glad that your sons have that level of awareness, because I think it helps facilitate productive and connected relationships, especially with women, because that's usually what we complain about. The men aren't emotionally connecting to us. But you brought up something interesting, Constance, that I'm going to ask Dr. Alicia about, because you mentioned that, after, COVID, it was COVID, then your divorce. And I noticed during COVID, a lot of relationships just kind of after that. So Dr. Alicia, do you think that the situation with COVID is the reason why a lot of these couples filed for divorce, or maybe they could have just weathered that out better? Because I know Tia filed during that COVID-19 time frame. So do you think that being forced inside the house, or what was the dynamic of the pandemic at the time that created all these relationships that fell apart?
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID was, like, now looking back on it, it was a wonderful thing, because good marriages got better and bad marriages got worse. So if you were on the fence about your relationship, you were forced, literally sheltered in place with that person that you need to come to terms with. And it was a lack of a better phrase, come to Jesus moment for a lot of people. It was like, we either sit here and try to work on it, or we sit here and realize this is not the person that I want to be with. So it sped up a lot of the inevitable separations between people. And at the same time, it made a lot of relationships stronger. So I think that's important. But I wanted to say something else, because I'm so excited about what everyone is commenting on. Constance, yes, thank you for disclosing all of your experiences, because, I mean, you think about your sons, you think about all of the attachment disruptions that they experience. Of course, they need somebody to help them process that. Getting a divorce, experiencing COVID and moving from one side of the country to the other, like, that's a lot of disruptions that disrupt their attachment process. So of course they feel lost and confused. Lord, East Coast and the West Coast is so different. And so adjusting to that makes sense. And on the other side of that, they're going to be so much better that they have a place to express it. Also, Lola, I love how mature your family is. This is a great example for everybody, that just because the relationship ends in that way doesn't mean I hate you anymore. Because so many people attach ending of a relationship with a catastrophe, and I have to hate you now that you're not dating my sister anymore. No, this is still you. Yes, goodbye to you in this situation, hello to you in another relationship. So that's so mature. That's a great example of maturity.
if I could just add to that really quick too, because I'm very family oriented. A lot of my like I was with my ex-husband for 30 years. So, this is like first for me was a total disruption of life. But a lot of his family members will call me and be like, we're still family. And I'm like, our relationship was always predicated on our relationship. It wasn't based upon my relationship or my marriage or divorce from anybody else. Like, I love y'all for real. Like, when I love you for real. And so, yeah, it may not have worked out with us, but we still family. And that's what a recurring theme for me. And I'm like, plus y'all still related to my kids blood wise. So, I think that's the mature, if you could get past that and try to, put your personal differences aside. Yeah, it sucked and it was up and all those other things, but they had nothing to do with it. We still have our relationship. And I think that's the great thing about what it could still be post divorce.
Thank you for adding that, Constant, because I think that is something important for people to know, that just because you divorce a person doesn't mean that you have to divorce the entire family situation, because oftentimes, there are people who support you throughout stages of life. Now, Lala, one thing I want to ask you, especially because you've been married for a long time, you're a resident married queen. What have you done within your marriage? Or are there any tips you can give us to encourage men to be emotionally vulnerable with us, and how we can create that within our own dynamics and relationship? Whether it's platonic, romantic, like what can we do as Black women to facilitate a space for Black men to feel like they can do that?
I'm glad you asked that, because let me tell you something. If it wasn't for my mother-in-law, who I don't call her mother-in-law, I call her mom. Mom is extremely important to me. But because mom raised such a strong man, he was able to bring that into our relationship. She was a single mom, of course, but she was also very versed and well into raising someone strong in our community. So, she always taught him you can open up about feelings. And plus, my husband is also artistic person. So he's been in theater, he writes his own music, he does all that stuff. So I think a lot of that comes from the artistic heart as well. So our relationship has always been one where we've always been able to talk about things. And this has been a big basis in our relationship. And so we were able to do that with our son. Always let him know, hey, it's okay if something is bothering you. It's okay if, you're not feeling like your boyhood, you're feeling a little emotional. Like, sometimes they go off the Boy Scouts and all that stuff and they have to do these man things. But honestly, if you teach them that their emotions are valid and so are others, and it's okay to express them, you're going to have a stronger young man that grows into adulthood.
Thank you for sharing that. From my perspective, I have brothers. I have 4 brothers. So I've been growing up with men my whole life. And what I did notice growing up, I'm not going to put any particular brother out there, but across the board, I did see them cry in the shower. I did see them cry at night. There's a lot of shame even around having those type of emotions. And I feel like a lot of energy is always being placed into projecting an image of, I got this, or nothing's really bothering me, or I have the solution to a problem. And what I have found is that they seek that reprieve from women, either your mother or your sister, or if you have a woman in your life. I've even noticed that when a particular brother when they don't have like a girlfriend at the time, that I see them more because they want that nurturing energy from a woman from someplace. And it used to be a situation where I was like, oh, do they want a solution to the problem? And I realized, no, they just want someone to listen to them and someone to vent to, right? So I found that I always get very concerned when men don't have those spaces, because I was listening to Scott Galloway, who is a NYU professor, and he said when men do not feel lonely, or when men do not have, that support, that they tend to find themselves more in behavior that's not productive for society. I'm just going to wrap that up as that. But if you are just joining us, we are Fly Nubian Money, and today I'm here with your co-queens, Constance Carter, Wealth Activator, Dr. Alicia, our therapist and college professor, and we are here discussing Cory Hardrict opening up about his post-divorce emotional struggles and how Black men face that and what we can do as a community, as Black women, to help support them in that. We are here Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And feel free to join our text group that you can text the word Queens, that's QUEENS, to 87948 so you do not miss when we are live or any other freebies we have. We also are on Spotify. So if you're busy and you want to listen to us on the go, honey, you can go ahead on Spotify. Now, what I want to get as a perspective as well is Tia's perspective, right? Or what Tia has said about their divorce. So I think we have a video that we are going to show just to hear what she may have, her thoughts on her side and her perspective of the divorce.
Last month, the actress announced she and Cory were calling it quits after 14 years of marriage. Writing on Instagram, quote, "These decisions are never easy and not without sadness," adding that they will maintain a friendship as they co-parent the 2 children they share, 11-year-old son Cree and 4-year-old daughter Cairo.
Family is so important to me.
And on Tuesday, Tia revealed when she knew her marriage was over during a stop by the Today Show.
I knew when I really started to focus on my happiness. I feel like women, we tend to focus on everybody else's happiness, making sure that everybody else is okay. Meaning, our children, our friends, our, family. But at the end of the day, it's about self-love. And when you start to really work on yourself, love yourself, know your value, know your worth, and then all of a sudden there's this awakening.
Tia adds she was feeling sadness, and the death of 2 family members prompted her to look inward.
There was just an aha moment in me where I said, you know what? You need to tap in, see what's really going on with your happiness. Life is short. Let's go. Let's start working on you and really focusing on what really, really matters here, which is at the end of the day, your peace, your joy, and your happiness.
Tia said a lot in that video, and I want to unpack that, especially around happiness. And for those of you in the chat, feel free to leave comments about should your happiness come before everything in a relationship, or how much happiness plays into a marriage. Now, Dr. Alicia, what I want to talk to you about is happiness. Tia was expressing that she did not feel happy. And as we know, about over 70% of women are the one who initiate divorces, and that number goes up to 90%, depending on their college education status and other things. So do you feel as though that was a situation with Tia? That her overburdening herself.
Yeah, that's what she said. So we have to go with that. I think that when you get married and when you start to have children, you want to prove that you can do it. I want to prove that I can be this wife. You want to prove that you can be a mother. And a lot of what she's saying is very real for a lot of women, where they put themselves last and they're always putting the needs of other people ahead of theirs. They're tired. They're working all day. She has a busy career, but all of us regular women, we have busy careers, and we don't carve out time to nurture ourselves. We're spending so much time literally feeding kids, feeding the family, and taking on these huge responsibilities that for some reason we fall back on these very traditional roles when we get married, when really we need help from everyone. And so what it does is that it creates this sort of instance where you don't get to sit and reflect and think about finally putting yourself forward. So it's like a pendulum swings from one side where you're selfless, because as mothers, we're always taught to be selfless. We're socialized to be selfless, to put ourselves last and put everybody ahead of us. And the pendulum can kind of swing to the other side when you have so many years of that, 14 years of that, where you're just like, you know what? I just need a break. I need a time where I'm just to myself. And then you start thinking about, what is it that I want? What is it that I want for myself? And experiencing the loss of someone close to you can put you in that midlife crisis, because women go through a midlife crisis a lot earlier than men do because of all the stress that we have with parenting and mothering, and we got to mother our husbands sometimes, all of these things. Taking care of the household rests a lot on women. And that's a mistake. I think we can learn from this to say, you know what? You need to have a supportive partner and supportive environment where everybody is nurtured and is not just falling on one person. So she's expressing what a lot of women experience, especially early on in relationships. It's a mistake, so we can learn from her.
Listen, all right, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. And to the chat, do you think Black women have an I'm every woman syndrome? Like, do we need to take a rest? Constance, I actually want to ask you that. Do you think that is something that we need to definitely take heed to? Like, we need more rest and we need to not take on so much of a task?
Of course, but how do we not? With being everything to everybody, being mothers, being nurturers, you give us some bacon, we're gonna cook a meal. You give us a house, we're gonna make a home. That's just who we are as women. We're gonna take on the world. Us as modern women. But I understand where she's coming from, but also, I don't think that you should put your happiness above that of everyone else. I do believe that there are ebbs and flows in every marriage, in every situation. There are peaks and valleys. I was of the mindset that you got to thug that shit out until you die. Unfortunately, I made the decision to get married before my prefrontal cortex was developed. So, that was a mistake. But no, marriage is a covenant, is a commitment, it's a contract, it's all of those things. And so, you go into it thinking, sometimes I'm not going to be happy. Sometimes I may need to compromise. Sometimes, I might need to, give a little bit more. And so you do that. Everybody has to make those adjustments. And again, you'd go through those moments of unhappiness. I wouldn't say I've ever had a moment in life that I was unhappy outside of going through the divorce process. I didn't rely on my spouse to make me happy. I was happy within myself. I did things to make myself happy. I was happy within my career and the people that I work with and the people that I helped. And, I feel like I created a meaningful life for myself, that I was happy. Did I have the support and the security and all those things that you need as a wife at home? No. And I think, it was probably the same thing for him, because I was the breadwinner. And, when you don't have anything going on, your mind could get bogged down with a lot of different things. And I think that's what kind of happened for me. So, when you're like, if you're here's what I don't understand with some people though. You get married knowing a situation, right? So you're going to make more than this guy. That you're the one that's out there in the front. And then you get mad because you make more and you got to do you went in knowing that. And then you get mad at some point, like you knew what the job was when you took it. So now why are you mad at him for being who he was in the first place? So there's all those different things. We don't know what goes on inside someone's marriage, but I just know that marriage is there's so many layers to it that you just can't really just put your finger on one thing. Because I see people in the comments, calling her names and say, y'all don't know. Y'all wasn't with them. Y'all didn't lay down. You guys have no idea. Only thing that we can do is speak from our perspective as being, if we were married, if going through a divorce, being single and all of those things. And I just know for me and what I've had to deal with, I went into it with a commitment mindset, and, things just happen. They don't work. And it just is what it is.
I want to tag on to that, because people always people talk about, he doesn't make me happy, or, it's not someone else making you happy. You have to be happy for yourself. You have to want to grow into yourself. We all have different life journeys. Our life journeys can go alongside with someone, but you still have a life journey of your own that you have to travel. And you can do that together. My husband and I managed that. There were rocky waves sometimes, especially when we first got married. We were 23 years old. Come on, 23 years old. We're barely over drinking age. So, we knew each other as friends, but even as getting into a marriage, you have these perceptions of what you think are supposed to be marriage. All of my aunties, all of my uncles were married for many, many years. So I thought I was supposed to be this person, even though. And then I found out, no, I can't be the best wife to my husband if I can't be the best Lala to Lala. And it took a long time for me to do that, but we swam those waters together. And so did he. He knew from the very beginning, this is what my path is. And I was always like, that's interesting. I kind of got shaken from mine. So how do I get back on my path? But he helped guide me there too. So it's not about someone else making you happy, because it doesn't matter if wherever you go, there you are. You got to be you and walk your path. It's not up to someone else to make you happy. Someone always has told me, other people's perceptions of you is not your reality. Walk your path.
Listen, walk your path is going to be the theme, or at least the one takeaway we can all get from this live today. If you are joining us, welcome to Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your lovely co-queens. Today we are here with Dr. Alicia, who is a therapist and college professor, Constance Carter, who's a wealth activator, and Lala Key, international real estate agent. And I'm Athena Gardner, CPA and founder of We Wealth Women. Now, today's topic, we're talking about the Cory Hardrict opening up about his emotions post-divorce and what that means when it comes to especially men and their emotional struggles, and especially the dynamics of that within the Black community. If you are just joining us, please comment if you feel like we as a group, Black men and Black women, are we conditioned to emotionally suppress ourselves? Comment down that in the chat. Now, I actually want to replay the video again, especially for those of us just coming into the room. So we are going to watch what Cory had to say about his emotional struggles post his divorce.
Because, it's tough when it feels like you're going through something alone and no one understands, and, no one's there for you. And it's just like, when you're a man, especially a Black man, they're like, oh, he's tough. He's strong, but it was a year and a half crying myself to sleep every night. Nobody see that. Yeah. Nobody see that. Yeah. You live 5 minutes away from your babies. You know what I'm saying? Because people who know Cory Hardrict know that his kids and his family was everything to him. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm stronger than I thought I was. Yes. I'm really stronger. And that by the grace of God, it's like I'm here and I'm still going.
I am actually happy that he was actually open enough to discuss all that he did, because I find as a community, we might have some intimacy intolerance, but especially at least my experience, I don't want to just cast a blanket on everyone. My experience with men has been, a lot of them have a lot of intimacy intolerance, and it's been a challenge to connect in that way. But I'm glad that Cory was able to open up and share that with us. Now, I actually want to discuss emotional suppression, right? Emotional suppression. And as a community, is that something that we do? And what are the effects of that? I want to actually pose that to you, Dr. Alicia. what are the psychological effects that we can have if we decide as individuals, if we emotionally suppress ourselves?
Yeah, emotional suppression is a big issue. And again, being socialized to not have a space where you can express how you're feeling and what's going on, it can lead to mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. It can even lead to physical health problems such as hypertension, heart disease. And if you don't have really good coping strategies, you can go into a very dark place, like what you mentioned earlier with, I can't remember that one guy, how men who suppress their emotions, they let it out in some ways that are unhealthy. So trying to find like a proactive way to exercise, to get out, to have a good support system, good family and friends around you who support you, who you can talk to, who can give you a safe place for you to just kind of cry and talk about what's going on with you. You should have that in, all of us deserve to have that in our lives, right? So yeah, that's what happens. You push that down and it can have an effect on you where you're not even aware of it. Like so many people have a lack of self-awareness. They don't even know things are coming up for them. And I do want to say, like, it's unfortunate that men in particular don't have a place and not socialize. I'm really mean socialize to look at things healthy. I like what Cory has done because not once in his comment did he put his ex-wife down. Not once did Tia put her ex-husband down. And I think that it was important to talk about your experience and not turn and say, I'm gonna blame all men. All men are like this, and get to this real ugly, nasty place that I see a lot of men and women get into. And I love that. I mean, it's so easy for men to go to these places. Y'all know who they are, where they're like, what's wrong with American women? And they get to this ugly place where they just blame women for the problems in their relationship. It's two people in the relationship. You got to take some ownership of how you contributed to the issues, and the partner also needs to take ownership of what it is. You can't it's not healthy to put the blame on one gender or one group of people, or even to blame westernized society. Like, that is unfair to do. So I love the way they're speaking about it. It just is healthy. And it's a way where if their children came across that video, they won't say, dang, why is dad talking about mom so bad like that? That's devastating. So it's a maturity. That's a great mature way to handle such a very personal issue. Being a celebrity, all your business is out there. So, it humanizes the experience for all of us.
Yes, it most certainly does. The professor I was referencing was Professor Scott Galloway, and usually I reference him because he's a man, and he has said that our society is producing the most dangerous kind of men because men are being faced with loneliness more. Men are being faced with higher rates of depression, suicide, especially within Black men. Look, Forbes is saying how Black masculinity norms affect the mental health of Black men. And because of the traditional masculinity roles that we put on Black men, it has caused them to struggle with their emotions and are very reluctant to seek help. I think there's statistics on the rate of Black men versus their white counterparts as far as seeking mental health, right? Because look, 11.8% of Black men with any mental illness received mental health services compared to 20.4% of white men. And also 38.4% of Black men with any mental illness did not receive any treatment in comparison to 26% of white men. So white men are actually getting care at double the rate almost than Black men. Now, I'm sure there's some societal, economical, cultural things attached to that, but it's putting our men in a state that I think will not be helpful as us in our community. And we see that play out in the gender war. Constance, I actually want to talk to you about this because you raised Black men, and I'm glad that you were able to raise your sons in a way that they're very much self-aware. But do you, outside of your sons, right, do you think that they would represent the norm or the average men in their age group? Or do you think that they're actually atypical in that way?
You know, I'm telling you, with the introduction of the internet and TikTok and everything that they're exposed to, they have access to so much information. They're, you know, they're looking at TikTok 24/7. But they see so much, and I think they've been introduced to a lot more than, you know, people my age and older. So I think the younger guys are getting it. I'm hopeful. But you know, as parents, we just have to make sure that they know that we're available to listen to them, and that we create a safe space for them to want to be able to talk to us. You know, I my oldest son, from the time he was little, he's always asked me everything because he just talks so much, but he's just asked everything. And then my middle son, he was always the introspective one, but he can really communicate very well. And again, I'm still trying to figure out this youngest one. He doesn't talk a whole lot, and so I'm still trying to, you know, figure that out. But I've created a space where they feel comfortable, where they can come and talk to me about anything. Don't feel ashamed about nothing. Now, do I cringe about some of the stuff? Absolutely. Do I want to hear everything? Absolutely not. But I make sure that, you know, they know that anytime you want to talk to me, son, I'm here. And, you know, we just got to do that. And then and acknowledge their feelings too, you know, and acknowledge how they feel and validate their feelings. Even if we think it's right or it's wrong. But then I also let them know that, you know, mommy's human too. So here's, you know, if I hurt your feelings or in any way, or I made you feel some type of way, here's what I was going through, or here's my reason why. It doesn't justify if I was wrong. It doesn't eliminate how you feel. But just having those meaningful conversations with your kids, I think, is extremely important, and treating them like they're humans.
I agree.
I gotta tap into that, Constance, because my son is 37 years old, and this is how I have taught him all his life. Now, my son is a recovering alcoholic as well, and for many years I just had to be that praying mother. Okay, but I always whispered things of power in his ear during this time. Whether he heard them, I didn't know, but he told me he heard them. Right, so we have this really tight relationship. So even though he is as old as he is, he still comes and speaks to me and his father about things because he's not afraid to. And it's empowering, and so I get so emotional about it when I think about it. I know my son can come to me with anything, and he has come to me with anything. And sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure I really wanted to know that, but I'm so glad that you told me, you know. So this shows that it doesn't matter what age they are. If you instill that into them, you allow them to grow into their manhood. This is not something that will depart from them. And I think this is something that we have to continue to do in our communities, to get that really rooted into them so that they understand that they are just as important with their emotions. It's okay to falter sometimes. It's okay to talk to people sometimes. Even when you don't feel like, you know, they should hear something, sometimes you just have to verbally express it so that you can get to your next step. So I commend you. I'm loving it, but I had to giggle because sometimes they'll come to you and say things and you're like, oh, okay, I'll listen. But, but you know, sometimes you're like, a little much, but I'm glad you shared it with me.
Dr. Alicia, with your son, is it like that? Or is he like, I don't want to be therapized, mom? Like, or is he open? Does he share things with you?
Well, you know what? He's a really interesting case because he was like a stellar student, fantastic. Went to boarding school. I never had to worry about him. And then COVID happened, and they never reopened his boarding school. They kept, because Illinois took COVID seriously, so they never reopened his school. He hasn't been the same since. You know, he really hasn't. Like, a piece of him was just missing. You know, he's doing well. You know, he's coming back from it, but like something in him just changed with COVID. And I think just like being isolated, away from attachment disruptions, away from like actually living with his friends and having fun time with his friends. And not only is he different, but when I was talking to some other parents from that boarding school, they all say, yeah, our children are struggling. And it's a academic boarding school. It's a math and science academy he went to, but the kids, all the kids in that whole school was really struggling. I get a lot of teenagers who struggled because COVID, he had no graduation, he had no prom, he had nothing, and it was just like, duh. It was like working up to nothing. So it's really tough. And I think that Black men, you brought those statistics up, but Black men are definitely underrepresented as clients, right? And part of that also is because 90% of mental health professionals are white. And it's a barrier for treatment, because in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, is this white woman that I'm going to talk to about my problems, can this person understand me? Is this person going to be able to relate to me? Am I going to really be able to share how I'm feeling? Or is this person going to be working out their issues with Black people on me? It's like this barrier of trust. And I think it speaks to the fact that we need more Black men who want to be therapists. I love it when I train people how to become therapists in my master's program. When we get a Black male in our program, we're just like, oh, thank God you're here, because we know the need is so great. And we as educators, we know this, and we seek out really smart, really talented Black men to come into this therapy area, because they do very well. They do well. They're 10 times more effective than many other people. So we need y'all men out there who are in the chat talking about feelings. You can get an advanced degree and get out there and and feel a need. There's a void. We need you.
I'm so glad you said that, because my son getting ready to go to college wants to be a therapist.
Oh, have him talk to me.
Yes, I will. I'm so glad you said that.
Yes, we need more Black men in therapy, because I think also that might be a barrier. They're like, oh, nobody's gonna relate to my experience and things like that. But if you are joining us, we are Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to text the word Queens, that's QUEENS, to 87948 so you do not miss where we are going live. Today, we are talking about Cory Hardrict opening up about his emotional struggles post-divorce, and what does that mean for Black men, Black women, and the community as a whole. Now, I want to pivot, because this is a money channel, so we're talking about the dollars and the cents right now. I remember when they were going through this divorce, Tia did open up and express that she felt like he wasn't pulling his weight. She felt like a lot of the finances were on her. The kids were on her. She felt like too much was on her. And Constance, I remember you saying earlier that, you sign up for this man knowing going ahead that that's the situation, because she was the breadwinner in her relationship when they got together, if everyone knows that story. So do you feel that, even though, it's her right to get a divorce, do you think that Tia should have known that that was going to continue throughout their marriage? Or did she expect that to change? What are your thoughts on that?
Sorry about that. I said we all expect that to change, because we tend to marry potential. She probably didn't think that he was just going to be chilling the whole time. And I don't know what he did or what he didn't do at home, but I've seen him on some things. But she probably thought that he had the potential to, come in and maybe do a little bit more. And perhaps, I don't know, perhaps he got comfortable and he was like, she got it. And sometimes men will do that. You got it. And so then you sitting up here, because I've been in this situation, you sit up here, can't sleep at night, and you looking over there, they snoring, they sleeping real good. When you trying to figure things out, you worried about bills getting paid and all that other stuff. So that could be really, really stressful, because not only are you worried about, how bills are going to get paid, how am I going to feed these kids? What are we going to do next? All of these things. And when you have someone who's just like, she got it, it puts a whole lot of undue extra pressure on you. As men, I think, now going to, do men have to make a certain amount of money? Should men make more money and all of those things? I don't necessarily know that that's, I don't think that's necessary, because she probably was a woman who made a lot of money. And so for her to get with somebody to make as much or more than her may prove to be a little bit difficult. But, I think the thing about it is you got to try. he might not have been going to auditions. He might have been like, because he's comfortable. He eating good, he chilling. They going on vacations. I know that all too well. So it can kind of get tough when you hustling and then you come home and somebody just sitting on the couch watching TV after you've worked
Right.
16 hours.
So I think I remember her saying that he did get comfortable, or she felt like he stagnated and didn't try as much. And what this situation, because someone said in the comment, right, when we it was earlier, I don't know if we can pull it back up, just Reese, the social media red pill, blue pill is having a profound effect on our people and relationships, and not always in a good way. And red pill, blue pill, for people who may not be familiar, is like manosphere, gender war, level up stuff. Like we have the level up girls to the left and the manosphere guys to the right, and it has caused a lot of havoc in our relationships. Dr. Alicia, I know you have couples therapy. I know you do that type of work. Is that a common thing that causes women to file divorce when they are the breadwinners in their relationship? Do the women secretly have like resentment or feel unappreciated when that is the dynamic of the relationship?
Oh, it's not a secret. And women don't secretly have a resentment. They talk about it over and over again. Listen, when you're at an impasse in your relationship, and that's usually where I see a lot of my couples, it's usually the women coming to me, they are exhausted. They be like, I've been talking since I'm blue in the face. I can't get through to him. He's not listening to me. He's not respecting me. We make this agreement that we're going to do this and then he don't follow through. What am I supposed to do? And I think like the resentment will build up after talking about all of the things that you expect, expressing your complaints. Everybody's entitled to their complaints. Like I love it when my spouse comes to me and complains. He's like, I have a complaint about you. And I'm like, what is it? I want to know what it is, because I'm not going to put him down. His thoughts and feelings mean a lot to me. He's my first of kin, my next of kin, right? So anytime someone comes to me with a complaint, if there's somebody that I see that's important, I want to like stop everything and address it. Tell me what it is, what's going on, talk to me about it. If you don't do those things and you put people down and you make them feel like they're not important and you dismiss them and you start to get defensive. Getting defensive is a habit, and people need to break that habit, right? You start to get defensive and you don't want to listen. And how long can someone sit there in that misery? It's toxic to treat another person that way, by the way. So all of these things that can happen after many, many years of coming to someone and talking to someone, people just get exhausted and they're like, you know what? This person isn't even respecting me. We can't even come to a compromise because we can't even sit down and agree on anything. You'd be so surprised how much people, and it's not just men who do it, women can tend to do it, but it's mostly men that I see. They just bury their head in the sand. They go and they become workaholics or whatever, and they don't invest that time in the relationship. And so that's what happens. Women get exhausted and tired, and they feel like they can't get through to their partner. And they're like, you know what? I'm committed to this marriage. It doesn't seem like you're sharing that same level of commitment to me, because commitment means putting each other first ahead of any and everything that's going on with you. That's a healthy relationship. So you're not going to be happy if you're in a toxic relationship. And that's what a lot of women in particular, but men too, a lot of women tend to deal with. Now, what women do is women will file for divorce. What men do is they'll go and bury themselves in drinking or go get a girlfriend, or they cope with it in a different way, but it still means their commitment is waning. So that's the biggest thing. Women are just like, let's just end this, but sometimes men, they behave as if they're not married, although on paper they're really married. Y'all know the whole thing. Y'all know how people can be. So that's
a little side piece around town.
Yeah, that's how they cope, but women don't necessarily do that. So I think whatever it is toxic, right? So you really have to put the needs of your partner have to come first. You have to come up with a compromise, a way to solve problems and not just bury them. Sweep them under the rug.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I actually want to point out Renaissance Women's comment what she said, which is why we need to stop marrying potential unless they're on the same level as you. So Lala, I know you've been married forever too, but also I know you're an international real estate agent. So I know you see couple dynamics when you're showing houses and you're doing all these things. Does Renaissance woman have a point in the whole marrying for potential? Like, how much potential should we give our partners or future partners, or should we just marry as they are as is, or should we leave room for potential? I know you met your husband in what, high school, so you didn't know exactly how everything was going to work out at that time, right? So what is your advice on that comment?
I think what you need to do is to go into a relationship understanding that you can grow together. You can't base your relationship off of someone else's potential. You know, you can't live their life. You can't live their dream. You can't walk in their shoes, but you can grow together. So before you even decide to put that ring on it, you need to really dig deep into understanding why you're getting married in the first place. Have that premarital therapy together. Everybody has potential, but don't base everything off of someone else's potential. My mother always said that, and I think this is why one of the reasons our marriage is also a success, because I know that my husband's mother also spoke to him and gave him good examples as well, is when you get angry at one another, you need to stop and breathe for a second and remember the reason you got married in the first place. And if it was for a good reason, if it was important enough for you then, it's important for you enough now to continue and fight for whatever it is. Marriage is not an easy thing. It's not. Nothing is easy. Want it, but you both want it bad enough, and you can communicate with one another, then you have a better chance at this thing called marriage than not. If you go to your room and you shut your doors and you don't talk at all, then you have a problem. You can't solve anything just by turning your back on one another. So I've always kept that advice, and I have actually given it to many of my nieces and nephews, and I always remind them on their first fight, what did you get married for? And then they kind of stop and take that breath, just like we did when we were young. But I didn't marry my husband because I thought he was going to be, some Grammy winning artist, although he has been nominated, I shall say. But I grow with him. We grow together and support one another. So if it's something that excites him, I help to support him in that. Same with him with me.
I love that you guys support each other. And honestly, that's probably been the key to keeping your marriage sustained and can be an inspiration to us all. Now, we have been talking a lot about this topic of emotional suppression within Black men, Black women, and the community at large. And we are now going to wrap up with final thoughts, right? So I'm going to start with you, Constance. What are your final thoughts on this topic? What do you want to leave us with? And where can the people find you?
Well, as I said in the beginning, it definitely makes me empathetic to him as a man, and the things that Black men go through with that masculinity, sometimes toxic masculinity. Some of the things that they're taught. Black women are out here killing it, and it's just a reality. We're making more money. We're starting more businesses. We're getting more degrees, and so a man may feel emasculated, or they may not feel that they can measure up, and it's tough. So, I just think we as women have to give grace. I think it's extremely important for us to give grace. I definitely believe that, money don't make you. Money is not the end all be all. When you, at the end of the day, it's who you are, what you can contribute, because when the money goes, or if the money goes, then where does that leave you? And so I think we should really just continue to have grace for one another and continue just to try to love from a pure place. Where can you find me? You could follow me on all things I am Constance Carter on Facebook and on Instagram, at CC the CEO on YouTube. My mission and my passion in life right now is helping Black women to be able to close the wealth gap. There's an African proverb that says when you teach a man, you teach an individual, but when you teach a woman, you teach a nation. And so teaching Black women is my passion at this point, teaching them how to grow their net worth to over 7 figures. So if you're interested, holla at me, hit me up. I would definitely love to have a conversation with you.
I love that. I love that. So, Lala, same thing to you. What are your last thoughts, and where can the people find you and let them know about you? You're muted, Lala.
Well, darn, I had something really good to say. I think that we need to stop as a community telling men that they need to be strong. It's not okay to cry. It's not okay to have emotions. I think having a healthy life is allowing you to step into those powers of those emotions, because it helps you to grow and be a better person. So whether you have young women or young men, you should teach them that all people have all of these emotions and they're valid. And we should teach them all how to express themselves and never be ashamed of them. You can find me anywhere at this little link here, bit.ly/Lori Key Info. It lists all of my social media, and I would love to connect with you.
All right. And Dr. Alicia, our resident therapist and college professor, what are your last thoughts on this topic, and where can the people find you?
Yes, bravo to Cory for being vulnerable. And I think that Cory, like so many men, struggle with maintaining and establishing intimacy. And for all you men out there, you can't have intimacy unless you make yourself vulnerable. And to all the women out there, men are not going to be vulnerable with you if you do not create an atmosphere of safety. So take that to heart, create an atmosphere of safety. Your man wants to open up to you, and that's how you have connection. That's how you get to know each other. I am Dr. Alicia. You can contact me at Coaching with Dr. Alicia if you want to work with me individually or as a couple. And you can find me on Instagram at Coaching with Dr. Alicia.
I am Athena Gardner. I'm a CPA and founder of We Wealth Women, where we help women confidently manage their finances and create the wealth that they deserve. Right now, I do have my latest course, The Goddess Guide to Money, that's available at ggtm.wewealthwomen.com. My last thoughts on this is that, similar to what Dr. Alicia said, I think that within our community, we have a lot of intimacy intolerance because we don't feel safe. And because we do not feel safe, we don't open up and have our emotional needs met. It is manifesting as this gender war and attacking on everyone. So my last thoughts are this, and in whatever way you can create a place of safety for the people in your life by being attentive, available, and supportive, if we can just do that with our own families, I think we'll start to see the positive shift that our community needs. And this has been Fly Nubian Money. We are here weekdays, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bringing you the topics that matter to you. You can always subscribe and join our text community. I text the word Queens to 87948 so you do not miss when we are live. Also, if you want to listen to us on the go or while you're doing your errands, we are also on Spotify as well. And if you think you will make a good queen, honey, feel free to reach out to us at info@realvirtual.net, and maybe one day you'll be on the panel. We love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.